Welcome to the Fast Leader Podcast, where we explore convenient yet effective shortcuts that will help you get ahead and move forward faster by becoming a better leader. And now, here's your host, customer and employee engagement expert, and certified emotional intelligence practitioner, Jim Rimbach.
Thanks, Kimberly. Okay, Fast Leader Legion. I am excited because I get the opportunity to share with you somebody who's really been a mentor to me for many years. I look up to her. She's one of those folks where when you think about quotes and sound bites in your head, you actually hear her voice. Her name is Kate Nasser. Kate was born and raised in upstate New York, where she was the youngest of 4 daughters and had to hold her own. As young as the age of 5, Kate felt leadership and the desire to help others when she befriended a heavyset little girl in her kindergarten class that others were bullying. They stopped making fun of the little girl and started to include her and play with her. This inner strength kept pulsing inside Kate, but her hump was getting comfortable with her strength and living with it without overwhelming others. Her journey wasn't smooth. After being shunned in college and early jobs, Kate learned a valuable lesson in becoming comfortable with herself, even when it meant being alone. It taught her many different avenues of solving problems, overcoming challenges, and building connections. Ultimately, all of these lessons and Kate's strength spelled her destiny of self-employment as the people skills coach for leadership, teamwork, customer service, and employee engagement. The underlying message in all of her work is interact and lead with courage and balance. Kate has also created a forum for others to discuss, share, and learn about strength, balance, and interactions. It's the People Skills Global Twitter Chat Sundays at 10 a.m. Eastern and associated with a 24/7 online community. Kate Nasser, are you ready to help us get over the hump?
I'm ready.
I'm so glad you're here with me today. All right, so I've given our listeners a little bit about you, but can you tell us what your current passion is so that we can get to know you better?
Sure. My current passion is actually twofold. Certainly in my personal life, I'm doing something now for 10 years that I actually wanted to do from the very beginning, and that was be a dancer. And of course, my father said no, and that was the end of it. I wasn't even allowed to take ballet lessons like most little girls, so no pink tutu for me back then. But I did some dancing in college, jazz and that sort of thing. But about 10 years ago, I found Latin dancing, and I have the most incredible teacher, coach in New York City. And it has become a learning experience, not just in Latin dancing, but because he's not a typical dancer in terms of being totally focused on dance. He is actually a businessman, and there's like a little bit of philosopher in him. So I have actually grown in my own business insight. And he told me the same thing about him from the interactions that we have when I'm learning to samba. Now, how do we get to that? I don't know, but it's quite true. And then certainly in my business, my big passion is what it has been for 27 years. This is my 27th year in business. And it's all about teaching people and coaching people to interact in a positive way without losing the honesty. Because people think that it's okay if you're going to be authentic, right? Just tell people whatever. Well, no, you can be honest without being blunt. You can succeed without insulting people. And that's where the whole passion connects there.
Gosh, Kate, I think that's an awesome story that both of them, thanks for sharing both of them. But for me, there's something that really stuck out when you started talking about learning to dance and the interaction and the development and growth that came outside of dance by actually opening up your network and your mind. And I think that's just phenomenal. If you were to think about one thing that you would give as a piece of advice to others in regards to that learning and growth development that you've gone through, what would it be?
Be open-minded, not indecisive. He and I, my dance teacher, to the personality scale, he's an analytic. He's a driver analytic. I'm an expressive driver. So, he wants to go through the flow chart. And I teach this when I teach adapting to people, adapting to personality types. And here it was right in front of me every Saturday, a real life experience where I had to do it. And he has come to learn it from me. So the point is that be open-minded. Someone's a different personality type. Somebody has a different view. Okay, you don't have to fight them on it. You can listen, you can express yourself. He and I have influenced each other to the point now where he quotes me and I quote him. It is incredible.
That is incredible. And I think that's a great piece of advice. Thanks for giving it. Now, you are one of those folks, like I had mentioned, that a lot of times I think about sound bites in my head, and the way that we actually pull those things out in our memory, a lot of times they are associated with some voice, some inflection and passion. And absolutely, Kate, you have it. And I appreciate all of that in you. But we have to be energized from a lot of things in our lives. You talked about just those stories and how they give you energy and a newfound, perception and view and belief and all of that. But we look at quotes on the Fast Leader Show because they do inspire us. Are there some quotes for you that kind of do that, give you that energy?
I love inspirational quotes. I find them, in fact, in one of the darkest, most difficult times of my personal life, which was affecting my business life for a while, not in terms of what I delivered to the customers, but, when I'd be done working, I'd sort of implode, and I needed to be able to pump back up, because the next day I still had to be on, as it were. And I actually found a DVD, and I'm sure now it's online by now. It was, they had these quotes that came up and music behind it. And it was only like a 2-minute DVD. And I remember there was one day, it was in this office, I sat here, I watched that inspirational DVD 13 times in a row before I actually felt lifted up and out of what was weighing me down. So, I could quote quotes for 2 hours. I think for me, it's probably this one. Let me see if I can get it right. Don't walk behind me, I may not lead. Don't walk in front of me, I may not follow. Just walk beside me and be with me.
I think that
but I didn't. That's not mine. I don't want to take credit for that, and I would have to look up where I found that. But I've always been, again, I'm always looking for this balance, and leadership has always been defined traditionally as somebody out there telling you what to do, and I always hated that. And meanwhile, you can't just be passive in your life. And I hate the word follower. To me, everyone is a collaborator. Nobody is, you're not on a leash being dragged along. So again, don't walk behind me. I may not be leading every moment, and don't walk in front of me. I may not follow you, but walk beside me, be with me. That's the one that I think says it all.
And I love the depth of what that provides for us today in regards to talking about the multi-generations within the workplace, talking about, everything that we're having to deal with, especially at my age, aging of parents. Young kids. Oh my goodness. So thanks so much for sharing that. We talked in your bio, about, being one of many. Talked about your dad not allowing the tutu in the house. We've all had humps to get over. Can you think of a time where you've had to hump to get over, and it really defined and shaped you?
Oh yeah.
Can you share it?
Absolutely, hands down. This is my story. If anybody wants to hear my story, I came out of college thinking that I was going to be a high school math teacher. I did that for 3 months. After being hit by a meatball, I realized this is not what I wanted to do with my life, because in college, when you study math, unless you happen to be Einstein, which I wasn't, I had to work hard. We were studying calculus at midnight, this is tough stuff. But I loved math. I was good at it, and I loved teaching. So I thought that's perfect for me. Realized very quickly that, okay, I'm not going to do this. This is not what I pictured teaching to be. So the first hump was, what do I do now? I have to get a job. I have to support myself. I went into computers just because that's what the job availability was. So I got into computers. I was working in one corporate, my first company. Left there, went to another company. Second company they had technology older than the first company. So I was actually traveling backwards in my career, which is not a good thing to do. So then I finally landed a job at a very, very large well-known pharmaceutical company. Made it, right? Why wasn't I happy? I was still as discontented, and my life, I was like always at home. I'd come home from work and I'd be angry and, just whatever. And a friend of mine said, "You're incredibly smart. You're young. You're talented. What the hell are you doing being so disappointed and so angry all the time? Why don't you go see a career counselor? And maybe they can help you." And she knew of one. So this was a private one, not through the corporation I was working for. I went to her. She did the personality indicators. It's funny because this is what I do now, giving a lot of these things. And she came back to me after we talked for about 2 weeks. She came back to me and she said, "The reason you're not happy is because you want to be self-employed." I said, "You're crazy. I never even had a lemonade stand. What are you talking about?" And she's very, very, I remember what she said. She had these papers, about me, and she pushed them across the table at me like this. And she said, "Data doesn't lie, dearie." She said, "You came to me. That was the first big hump. You chose." She said, "You want to change your life in some way." So she gave me an exercise to do for 2 weeks. It seems like 2 weeks has always been the magic number. So she said, "Here, go home and do this exercise for 2 weeks and then come back to me." And she said, "A pattern will emerge at the end of the exercise and you will see where you want to go." She was absolutely correct. So then I had to start putting into place a plan to leave and start my own business. And of course, that means saving up money. There's a lot of planning. You just don't, flip out the door. And it was 2 years, not 2 weeks, 2 years to the day. And I left and I started my own business. And that was 27 years ago. And a few years ago, I found her business card in the back of my desk drawer. You know how you clean out every so often? And I thought, I wonder, it's been so many years. I wonder if she's still around. But I thought, what the heck? So I picked up the phone and I dialed a number, and she was still there. And I said, "I don't know if you remember me. My name is Kate Nasser." Before I could finish the sentence, she says, "Oh, I remember you." I'm like, okay, is that a sort of a compliment? But I wanted her to know. I really wanted her to know what a difference it made in my life. But that was it. And if I had one thing to do over, and that's sort of the message I want to send everybody about, I hope I'm not jumping ahead on your questions, but the message I would send everybody when it comes to fast leader, the key word is sooner. Most people think of fast as doing things quicker, chaos and rushed. It's sooner. Just like when they say, I don't have enough money to start an investment, and they say it's not how much money you have, it's when you start. The people who invest, $10 and they start at the age of, 15 or something. You've seen that, right? And they've actually worked out the numbers. It's the same with achieving success. Start sooner. And I got a whole list of things I could give people on what to start sooner.
Yeah, I think that's, you bring such a breath of freshness, Kate. And you giving that definition of fast leader, oftentimes I have to do the same thing. It's not about doing things quickly. The beauty about fast leader is what you just shared, and that we can learn from others so that we can do the right thing a little bit sooner. And that's going to make us a faster leader. We're going to learn better, and we're going to get over those humps faster when we learn about the things that others have had to go through.
I love your word, learning. In fact, I was teaching a class years ago. It was a 4-day class on consulting skills, how to help people who want to become consultants. And I always started the class with this one message: learn as much as you can, everywhere you can, regardless of whether you think you will use it. I am constantly learning. Constantly. I've learned from listening to you. I learned from reading books. I learned from doing. I learned from teaching. Every time I teach, I come home, I'm pumping up the energy for them. And thank God I'm an extrovert, so it doesn't drain me. But I come home all energized. There's always one or two things I learned from my students, my customers. Keep learning. Oh my gosh, it's like a free feast.
Yeah, and it's amazing when you opened up your opportunities to learn more, just by taking the dancing class. Oh, it's just amazing.
Yeah. Dancing is my sanity getaway.
There's one thing. I do also a lot of studying in appreciative inquiry, which is based in positive psychology. And one of the things that appreciative inquiry talks about is unlikely pairs. So, and what that means as far as, your learning is concerned is that you need to seek out others that are different from you, because that will give you greater opportunities for learning instead of having somebody who thinks exactly like you. But the key is to be open for it, like you had mentioned earlier. So go and find some unlikely pairs.
Yeah.
So, Kate, thanks for sharing those stories. Now, you talked about, your work. You talked about how that has continued to develop. You talked about doing it for many years. And I know that it's something for you that has become part of your DNA. And I don't see you ever stopping. I just don't.
No, people are starting to say to me, so when are you going to retire? And I'm thinking, well, first of all, I'm age-wise, if you look at it, I'm not close to that. But my answer to always them is why? Why? Why would I? You've heard this. This is an age-old quote. When you love what you do, you don't need to retire. What I'm fascinated by, and again, I'm always learning, is a lot of people who were, in a job, good job, career, and then they do retire because when you're in a company, sometimes, how they indirectly force people out at a certain age, even though they deny it. But I have close knowledge of at least 3 people who have gone on to do other things, and they are happier than I have ever seen them. And for one, it's another full-time job, but she went from being a very big-time HR director at a large pharmaceutical company to teaching business and HR, but not in a business school. She teaches it at a fashion design school. And she's always telling me about how her students are teaching her about fashion. And her eyes light up the way mine have been lighting up for 27 years. So whether you love what you do right now and you want to stay in it forever, or whether you are, having a job and it's a good job, but it doesn't really light your fire, when you do leave, don't be afraid that you're going to think, oh, what am I going to do in retirement? Am I going to be bored? No, you're going to find what's really in you. It's just that right now you may not know what that thing is.
Yeah. The stay open piece and, be a lifelong learner is definitely that underlying component and message there that we have to sometimes force ourselves into. We're not wired to do different. We're just not. That's the unfortunate thing. So it does take a little bit of energy units. I was introduced to that phrase the other day to be able to do that. But if you think about your goals, what is one of your goals that you're shooting for right now?
Well, right now I am writing my first book. I've been blogging for years now, and I didn't even want to write. When someone told me I should start a blog, I said, why don't you just pull my fingernails out? The thought of it was so horrific for me. Then I fell in love with it because I'm a speaker. You know how it is. So writing a book is a bit of a challenge for me because at least with writing a blog, it's 600 words, give or take, and bing, bing, bing. Writing a book, I've got to organize it all. So I am writing it, but it's my goal. I am working on it. It is a bit of a challenge because I'm a speaker. So someone said, well, speak it and write it. So that's what I'm doing now. And then you have to go back and edit it though. So, that's a big goal. And the other goal is that, and I guess I'm in learning mode as to how to accomplish it. I want to combine the speaking and the entertainment part of my life because I've always been a performer at heart. And years ago, I used to do musical theater as a hobby, musical comedy shows and so forth. And I had to give that up to start my own business because I was on the road all the time. And one day my sister happened to be, I was doing an engagement here in New Jersey. And my sister came with me because we had to leave after that to go on a trip. So she sat in the back of the room and she said afterwards, she went out to the car and she was just kind of smirking and laughing. I said, what are you doing? What's in you? And she said, now I know why you don't miss theater. She said, because it's like watching a one-woman show up there. And I never forgot that. And I want to try to find venues where there's a little bit more of the entertainment piece as well as the content of what I speak.
Well, the Fast Leader Legion wishes you the very best. Okay, Kate, it's time for the rapid part of our show, and that's the Hump Day Hoedown. Okay, Kate, the Hump Day Hoedown is the part of our show where you give us good insights fast. So I'm going to ask you several questions, and your job is to give us robust yet rapid responses that are going to help us move onward and upward faster. Kate Nasser, are you ready to hoe down?
I'll try.
All right. So what do you think is holding you back from being an even better leader today?
Know-how.
What is the best leadership advice you have ever received?
Inspire people, don't overwhelm them.
What is one of your secrets that you believe contributes to your success?
Self-awareness and courage.
What do you feel is one of your best resources that helps you lead in business or life?
Inner strength and inner talent.
What would be one book, and I know that's going to be tough, but it doesn't have to be a business book, but what would be one book that you would recommend to our listeners?
52 Tips to Recognize and Use Your Greatest Strengths by Lorraine Kwai.
Okay, Fast Leader listeners, you can find links to that book and other bonus material from today's show by going to fastleader.net/Kate Nasser. Okay, Kate, this is my last Hump Day Hoedown question. Imagine you were given the opportunity to go back to the age of 25. And you've been given the opportunity to take the knowledge and skills that you have now back with you, but you can't take everything. You can only choose one. So what one piece of knowledge or skill would you take back with you and why?
Start sooner and speak up sooner. And why? Because success does not come from waiting. So start sooner.
Kate, it was an honor spending time with you today. Can you please share with the Fast Leader Legion how they can connect with you?
Sure. I have my website, katenasser.com. I also have the People Skills community, and you can actually get information on that. I'm all over Twitter. I just hit 50,000 followers today. Not that that was the goal, but it does help to have a wider audience. And of course, through my email, info@katenasser.com, I would love to connect with people. So bring on the questions.
Kate, thank you for sharing your knowledge and wisdom. The Fast Leader Legion honors you and thanks you for helping us get over the hump. Thank you for joining me on the Fast Leader Show today. For recaps, links from every show, special offers, and access to download and subscribe, if you haven't already, head on over to fastleader.net so we can help you move onward and upward faster.